African Football Association, Advocate Motlanthe. Over to you for the official welcome.
Thanks, Rob. Members of the media, President and the Minister. You are welcome to this press conference. My duty is just to welcome you and thank you for coming in the short space of time. And we, as Mr. Marawa had said, we did not want you to hear things on the streets. We wanted to give you the official position, and the President will tell us all why we are here. Thank you.
As part of the presentation, ladies and gentlemen, we'll also be having some very important guests who are going to be joining us via Zoom. It is part of the official endorsement that will come through, just to showcase the fact that it's not just a decision that's been taken unilaterally here, but it's also a decision that within the leadership of African football, it has got the endorsement that it needs and it deserves. So we'll quickly get that Zoom up and running, and then we'll have Dr. Danny Jordaan to address you and to address the entire African continent on today's announcement. Just to bring you up to speed, the messages of support coming through from Sierra Leone, coming through from Nigeria, as well as Botswana. Those have been the significant moves that have been made in terms of the support of the announcement that's been made. Some very familiar faces that the President of SAFA will be introducing to you shortly, once all the technicalities are sorted out.
Hello, Pinnick, can you hear me? Yeah, just unmute yourself there. Can you unmute? Hello. Yeah, you can hear me. We cannot hear you.
Just give us a thumbs up, Pinnick, if you can hear us on the floor. Just with by way of signaling with a thumbs up. Just give us a thumbs up if you can hear us.
Pinnick, just give us a thumbs up if you can hear us. Yeah, can hear us.
Okay, everyone can. Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
Pinnick, we will start with you. If you can just give us a message, and then we'll go to Sierra Leone, to Aisha. So if, Aisha, I see you are unmuted. So, Pinnick, if you can unmute yourself, then I'm sure we will be able to hear you.
Can you hear me? I can go on.
Pinnick, you can go ahead.
If you can hear me clearly, if you can't hear me, I'm going to come out with a statement officially very soon, endorsed by my executive committee. I will say very clearly that this is a new phase, a new chapter, a new direction, a clear indication that we want to rebrand the convener of African football. Everybody thought I was going to run for president. Yeah, definitely. I'm not from here.
Hear me, so I.
And supporting, and that's what we have decided to do in Nigeria. Can't give me, I'm going to come with this.
Okay, Mr. Pinnick, we cannot hear you, and I think it will only be fair for me to just cut in so that you don't waste the useful information that you have right now. I think we'll get everything right technically. I think just in order of procedure, let's allow yourself, Mr. President, to just lead in the conversation. And then once everything is clear, we will bring in our guests from around the continent.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, and thank you for coming here this morning. I want to give thanks and credit to Pinnick because I've started this conversation with him over a long period of time. And initially, he had indicated that he would also consider the nomination for CAF Presidency. And after a long discussion, he then said, look, but what about Patrice Motsepe? And from there, we started the ball rolling. So I want to thank him and also thank Aisha from Sierra Leone and Leswiti from Botswana, because those are the people that we have engaged with. And the first letter of support and endorsement, in fact, came from him, Amaju Pinnick, who is the president of Nigeria Football Association. And he then wrote a long letter of why he decided to support Patrice Motsepe. And I'm sure that it's some of the things that he wanted to share with you, as well as Aisha, who sent the letter, and of course, Leswiti McLean from Botswana. But the question of elections of CAF was a decision that was taken by the CAF executive. On the 12th of September 2020, we received the notice that the next CAF elective Congress will be held on the 12th of March 2021 in Morocco. And after that, the CAF regulations were then sent to all national federations, of course, including South Africa, and the closing date for nominations is on the 12th of November 2020. As I speak to you now, our nomination and all the required documents are being delivered in Cairo, Egypt, and we have made sure that we have complied with every requirement. And the requirement essentially is that the candidate must be nominated by the National Association. So in other words, SAFA must submit their nomination. Secondly, every country can only have one nomination, and therefore no other South African can serve on either CAF or FIFA executive positions. And then we received from Nigeria, Sierra Leone, and Botswana letters of endorsement and support. And the last issue then is, why did we decide to nominate Patrice Motsepe for the CAF president? Now, the SAFA National Executive Committee approved on a round-robin basis by an overwhelming majority the decision that we must support the candidature of Patrice Motsepe for the position of president of CAF. And it's clearly it is his football and business success that is well recorded, both in our country, in our continent, and throughout the world. In 2017, the Forbes magazine commemorated its centenary celebration and honored Dr. Motsepe as one of the 100 greatest living business minds in the world. And alongside him were given recognition to other global business leaders like Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Jeff Bezos, Jack Ma, and others. So in terms of Forbes magazine, we have one of the best business brains as a candidate for CAF. Secondly, Dr. Motsepe and his wife, Dr. Patrice Motsepe, joined what is called the Giving Pledge. And in the Giving Pledge, you have people like Warren Buffett, Bill and Melinda Gates. And the intention here is to give away half of their wealth, which is owned by the Motsepe family, to the poor and for philanthropic purposes. During his lifetime and that of his wife and beyond, in April 2019, the Forbes magazine stated that in excess of 500 million had been donated by the Motsepe family for poor and philanthropic purposes by the Motsepe Foundation. Football is a global sport, and one of the things that happened as a result of COVID, that there are three major challenges. One is a health challenge, second is an economic challenge, and thirdly is a football challenge. And when we look at football in the COVID environment and post-COVID, we then ask the question, what are the issues confronting football? And what is the response of African football to these challenges? And clearly, we see that from an African perspective, we have to repackage competitions. Secondly, that stakeholder relationship and partners with the business sector always precede sponsorship or commercial revenue into the sport. So when we look at what are the challenge for African football, we find that some of the biggest investors on the African continent are countries from the biggest economies, the Chinese, the Indians, the USA, Germany. They invest in various infrastructure projects on the continent. And yet, when you ask the profit that you generate, where do you invest it? In the English Premier League, in La Liga, in UEFA, not in CAF. And one of the glaring issues is, do we have a relationship with investors and business on the African continent? Do we engage them? And so if you unlock revenue for African football, we have to address first the relationship that we may or may not have with business on the continent. And we are very convinced that the building of commercial partnership and the link between CAF and business leaders on the continent is a requirement. Because we must also appreciate that the delivery of football has become more expensive. Because now, before you can play the match, you need to satisfy the regulatory requirements. You must have medical tests, the health and medical protocols that must be observed before you can play the match. The other thing is that on the African continent, the major revenue is from ticketing revenue of fans in the stadium. And now there are no fans in the stadium. So that revenue is cancelled. It's gone. It's not there. How do we deal with this question? And clearly we have to look at technology. What are the innovations that we can introduce to make sure that we continue to generate the revenue, to create a safe environment for football on the continent, and to improve competitions. And as we've seen, that when we went to Russia in 2018, the African continent dropped out 5 countries in the first round. And what it means a huge loss for African football, because if you qualify for the World Cup and you drop out first round without winning a single match, you get 9.8 million US dollars. That's 156 million rand. If you look at the total revenue out of 2019, you find that billions went to Europe. Then it's South America, then it's Asia, and last, in terms of revenue, is Africa. So clearly, you have to improve the quality of football, and therefore you have to unlock the revenue into football, and Africa and CAF must be one of the leading continental bodies in FIFA. So those are the issues that led us to a clear decision that his business acumen, his observance of governance, his legal training, his global business network and skill, his commitment and love for African football makes him a revolutionary choice for the leadership of African football. And so, in the post-continental and global football environment, requires football's commercial partners to re-examine the competition offering of CAF. It must improve its global profile and standing as a confederation of FIFA, and we believe that he is a candidate that can achieve this for the benefit of African football. So the focus areas must be the growth of women's football, the introduction of technology and innovation to improve Africa's competitiveness, closing the financial disparity between African footballing nations, strengthening the global zonal federations on the African continent, because the zonal confederations become a major delivery platform for quality football. So if you strengthen and improve football in the zones, you actually improve football on the continent. Building bridges and partnership between football business and strengthening the governance and ethics of football. So those are the focus areas that he would look at. So our nomination of Dr. Patrice Motsepe moves him from the boardroom to the dressing room. But also we understand that in order for the dressing room to be better, to get better results, you must strengthen your relationship with the boardroom. And he is a person that straddles both the boardroom and the dressing room, and we think that he is the most appropriate person that we could offer for the leadership of CAF. I thank you.
Thank you so much, President Dr. Danny Jordaan, for breaking the news that everybody had been waiting for. And I think it's also incumbent on us to recognize the presence here today of the Minister of Sport, that from a government and a government perspective, it gets the endorsement that it deserves, because an announcement of this magnitude goes far beyond just football, but sits right at the center of government and governance of sport. Ladies and gentlemen, Minister Nathi Mthethwa.
Thank you, Rob, and thanks to everyone here, the President of SAFA, the CEO, members of the media, the public, and everybody else. Thank you so much. As Rob has said, ours here is really to endorse the candidature of Patrice Motsepe. So that's all. Endorse. Now, I think that firstly, I would like to extend our gratitude and appreciation to Nigeria, Sierra Leone, and Botswana, who have already endorsed Dr. Motsepe to be at the CAF helm. And I think it is important for all South Africans that we support this move by SAFA and thank SAFA for identifying somebody we think that is capable, would make a difference in football. We want to see going forward football, you know, more and more getting stable, characterized through integrity, and be in the news for all the right reasons. And we believe that in Dr. Motsepe we have that, and it's not just football in the field, but also it talks to people relations, our diplomatic relations with other countries, and very firm on our commitment as South Africa to see a better Africa and a better world. And we think that the strengthening of those relations and having a better Africa would need a person who has affinity to the mother continent, and he has that. Somebody will have passion. We have seen Motsepe, you know, coming out very clear in terms of his sense of duty to his country, to his people, to the football fraternity in this very country, and a sense of patriotism. We need that because I think with football we need more conversation about how to strengthen football on the continent, how to focus on football politics, not dominating the actual growth of football, and ensuring that people are indeed, you know, given that chance to enjoy football without actually being diverted and distracted to many other what you would call petty political things in football, but also misgovernance. And you know, you need to have those people who are beyond reproach in football. I'm glad that one of the areas which has been highlighted by the President of SAFA is on women football. Looking at what is happening, the sponsorship, particularly as it relates to football generally, would want to see more such from the private sector coming to the fore. But of course, you see, sometimes we forget that nobody would want to invest his or her fortune in instances where there are muddy waters. Things are not as clear as they suppose to be. So I think that with these three countries showing that support, we look forward. We will have to engage President of SAFA. We'll have to engage other countries, including Cote d'Ivoire, which also is putting forth their candidate and the incumbent. We've got to engage them. If we can reach a point where generally there is a general understanding on how we move forward, I think that would be better. Of course, if it comes down to, contest, well, it would be contest. But I think I have a sense that it's possible to persuade other countries and other candidates. But CAF headquarters is in Cairo. And we've had some talks at some point about South Africa, that if South Africa or a South African wins the position of heading CAF, will think of having CAF here in South Africa. I don't think that that would be our position. There is nothing much bad which has been raised, particularly with headquarters of CAF in Cairo, and we want that to continue. We would want to get support of everybody, including Egypt, and we have a good working relation and good diplomatic relations with the country itself. And so here we are, South Africans, who are endorsing the candidate and the candidature of Patrice Motsepe. Thank you very much, Program Director.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Minister. I could tell the minute you mentioned a possible move of the headquarters from Cairo to South Africa, and Mamadou Gueye almost fell off his chair. But I'm glad that he's still safe and intact. We'll get to the part where we do ask the questions, but I think as a sign of appreciation, Dr. Jordaan, if you may do the honors with the minister, so that's the candidature jersey for Patrice Motsepe. So big moves on a Monday here in South Africa at the headquarters of football at SAFA House. The official handing over of the jersey signifying that Patrice Motsepe will be running for the top job on the continent.
Well, his coach is already in Egypt.
Yeah, they've already annexed a part of Egypt, so we do understand that. What we're going to do, and I'll co-share this responsibility with my colleague, Master Chaba Kumalo, with regards to opening to the floor any of the questions that I'm sure members of the media would want to ask. I'm sure there are a couple of questions that are burning deep down inside, if there are a couple of things that were not shared. But what we also possibly going to try and do, because it was important for Pinnick to come through, is that we might just put a WhatsApp video call to him and then put the microphone through, just so that we get those words of endorsement. I know we struggled a little bit there with the Zoom call, but I don't think technology should harm or hurt us in any way. There are many different forms of doing it. So as soon as he's on the line, then just as a sign of endorsement, because these are two very key countries that have lent their support to the candidature of Mr. Motsepe, Dr. Patrice Motsepe, to run for the presidency of CAF. So as soon as that's happening, we'll get him on the line. and we'll be able to engage with him. But otherwise, Motsepe, I think let's do this. I can see very anxious members of the media who would want to engage, but I do find that there is a possible link. So the Nigerian FA President, Amaju Pinnick, I'm sure you can hear me loud and clear.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. So just your words of endorsement. The members of the media here in South Africa are listening, and I'm going to capture you via the microphone for everybody to hear. Over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Honorable Minister, my colleague Danny Jordaan, my colleague Aisha, Lesotho, McLean, I humbly, with the permission of my executive committee, would want to endorse Mr. Dr. Patrice Motsepe for the candidacy of the CAF of CAF. Well, Danny has said it all, and it's been months and months of consultation. Yeah, my compatriots are kind of disappointed that I am not going to run, because the feeling has been, I'm a Pinnick. But I just made them to understand it's not about me, it's not about Maju Pinnick, it's about the continent of Africa. If you see somebody that has superior qualities than you, the only thing that you need to do is to modestly queue behind him and support him and wait for your time. And that's exactly what we have done. You know, it's one continent, and I'm very happy to hear what the minister says. We need to engage other critical stakeholders in the continent. You know, but what I think right now, with this toward image of Dr. Patrice Motsepe coming into the fray, we believe African football in no time will be standing at par with UEFA and other very proud footballing confederations. So I want to congratulate him. It's not just endorsing him. We will work night and day in ensuring that it gets elected. And I can assure you 100%, Patrice Motsepe will be the next president of CAF. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, I want to thank you very, very much indeed for coming through loud and clear, and I'm sure you got the response here from the media house here at the South African Football Association headquarters. Amaju Pinnick saying that they're not just only going to support the candidature, they're going to walk all the way through in ensuring that he becomes the next president of CAF. So no greater endorsement, ladies and gentlemen. He says it's not about him. A lot of people expected him to be running in his personal capacity, but now he has passed on that responsibility to one candidate who's from South Africa. Motsepe.
Thank you very much. Madluputu. A round of applause for his amazing facilitation skills and just being an all-round amazing top man. So before I open up the floor for a Q&A with the media, I would like to formally acknowledge my minister, the Minister of Sport, Arts and Culture, Minister Nathi Mthethwa, the President of SAFA, as well as the CEO of SAFA as well. Ladies and gentlemen, I have to tell a short story about when Robert Marawa entered the building. So he flew all the way from Cape Town to do this. I don't know if you were requested or summoned. Summoned. So as he's walking in, I thought, let me welcome my colleague and make sure he's okay and he has everything he needs. I said, Pela wena madluput, Pela wena, you are the star of the show. He said, no, Motsepe. The future president of CAF is the star of the show. That's what he said. So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, just to be aware that we have a very short program. I'm sure that all of you would want to engage, but we are opening the floor for brief questions. I will take one question per journalist, and if there's time, I will then come back to you if you have a second question, just to allow for a more diverse interaction. So I'll start with the gentleman at the back who has his hand up. Can we get a roving mic on the floor? Please give us your name and your surname, and let us know the organization that you're from.
Thank you. Mr. Jordaan Benjamin Leshoro from Newsroom Africa. There is a big announcement that is expected, or verdict, on Mr. Ahmad. I think it should be later this month. I know you said you started this conversation a few months back and it's been going back and forth, but is this one of the reasons that inspires confidence that this will be a successful campaign for Dr. Motsepe, if or should Mr. Ahmad possibly not be allowed to run for the CAF presidency in March?
Thank you very much. We'll take 2 more questions before we allow for responses. Yes, sir, in the front with the amazing 2-piece, the navy blue. Go right ahead.
Thank you. Good day, everybody. My name is Mamadou Guy, journalist, freelancer from Côte d'Ivoire. My question is to the minister. He just spoke now about engaging other African countries. He mentioned my country. Are you also going to engage Morocco? Is it going to be diplomacy through sport? Because the election will be taking place in March in Morocco. And Morocco is quite influential today in football in the continent. And we remember well that the South African government instructed SAFA to vote for the American bid. And yeah, that will be my question. Will you engage Morocco?
All right, thank you very much. Let's get one more question. Gentleman in the red striped shirt, please.
Thank you. Velile Nyando, freelance journalist. President.
From where are you?
Freelance.
Okay.
Thank you. Dr. Jordaan, maybe a related question to Benjamin Leshoro. Recently, our region, COSAFA, together with other regions, announced that they are backing the incumbent, President Ahmad, for re-election. And I noted that there was a mention that Nigeria and South Africa were not part of the reported 46 countries which have endorsed that candidature. Could this be a situation where you had already decided by that time in South Africa that you are taking this route? And maybe it also says a lot that, because you mentioned earlier that a country can only have one candidate. So it means that you are saying you've served enough at international level.
All right, thank you very much. We'll start with Dr. Jordaan, if we can get to the question from Benjamin, Newsroom Africa.
Yeah. So first of all, as we speak today, Ahmad is a candidate. So what's going to happen in the future is not known as we sit here. We have clearly spelled out why we believe Patrice Motsepe must be a candidate in this election. I spoke, or I tried to speak to Ahmad last night, because I thought it was fair, because I'm serving as his vice president. It's fair that I must inform him before I come to a press conference. Unfortunately, I then had to text him because they said there was no WhatsApp calls in Egypt. So I sent him a text message to say, we are nominating Patrice Motsepe, and I want you to know, and this is a decision of South African football and South Africa. He then says, thank you very much, noted. So he is aware that we are fielding a candidate. Now, you can never win on the perceived weaknesses or problems of your opposition. You can only win on your own strength. Go and ask Kaiser Chiefs. When you go into a competition, you must be sure that the victory path that you pursue is based on your strength, not on perceived or real weaknesses of your opposition. So, our campaign we spelled out. We've mentioned principles and policies and an analysis of how we see African football. No personalities involved. So that is our position as SAFA. It's a position that we discussed over a long period of time. And that is why you see that SAFA did not endorse anybody other than Patrice Motsepe. And let me also say to you, that decision published in the newspaper is not a COSAFA decision. We are COSAFA members. Where was that meeting held? And I did speak to the COSAFA president to say, don't make announcements where you did not call your members to a meeting. So that is all I want to say about that matter. As far as South African football is concerned, as far as Botswana football is concerned, and I can mention other federations, they don't know of that meeting. So the strength of our candidate, we believe, is sufficient for him to have a formidable chance to win this election without reference or regard for who says what. It's not on our interest. And we will never hope to win because we can bring stories against anybody else. That's not how we work. I ran the bid over 2 bids. And one of the things that we did in the bid is to argue our own strengths and never argue perceived or real weaknesses of the bids of other countries. That we will never do. So, as we speak now, Ahmad is a candidate, Patrice Motsepe is a candidate. The minister, he's got more information than me. He says Cote d'Ivoire has a candidate. So, as far as we speak now, we see there are 3 candidates, and we will engage as we go on the path. We are not interested in any other developments.
Thank you very much, President. Thank you. We appreciate that. So before we continue to minister to answer to Mamadou Kai from Cote d'Ivoire, over to you, Rob. What you got?
Yeah, sorry to interject, just that Aisha Johansen's got to leave for a meeting, so she has her message of endorsement. Aisha, thank you so much. I hope you can hear us. Go ahead with your message. The media is full alert here.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Yes, okay. Thank you so very much, Mr. Chair, Mr. Minister, and to my colleague, the President of SAFA, and to all of you here on this panel. I guess we all know why we're here, and there's nothing much more for me to say about Mr. Motsepe, more than the obvious. As South Africans, you probably know him more than we do, but for me in particular, I find Mr. Motsepe to be a remarkable man. You know, I would just like to say this. We are all about change. I know that 4 years ago, the elections, there was talk about the wind of change. And, you know, when you see everywhere around the world, change has become a very popular slogan and a mantra for people. People talk about change, change, change. Well, you have elections because you want change. That's the driving force. But, you know, let's be honest. How many of us can really say, or how many countries can say that, yes, we cried for change and we've really succeeded in having that meaningful change? And this is why Sierra Leone, the Sierra Leone Football Association, we are throwing our hat in for Patrice Motsepe. It is because we haven't seen that real change that we know is needed in African football, not just for South Africa, not for Sierra Leone, not for Nigeria or Botswana, but for Africa, for the African continent, because our narrative has absolutely got to change. Motsepe, like myself, he's a humanitarian. He sees beyond 90 minutes on the football pitch. He, like myself, we own football clubs. I don't think it was a financial consideration that led him to that. It certainly wasn't for me. Mine was born out of our civil war, bringing up kids and trying to change the narrative of Sierra Leone. And this is what it's all about. It's about having a leader. It's about putting the right people in the right places for the right reasons. And I think that really is the key to success, to growth, to development, which we want to see in our African football, in our continent. And this stretches now to the youth, this stretches now to gender, this stretches to female football, everything that we want, so growth and development. We need that leadership. We need that direction. We need that in order for us to be able to say, yes, change really has come. Now, with all due respect to all the other leaders and presidents and even presidents of associations that we have currently and we've had in the past, each has come, they've played their part, they've done their bit. But we need more to be done. A lot more has got to be done in this continent. And so for me, with the interaction, the few times that I have met Patrice Motsepe, we've all heard about what he has done, what he's capable of doing, born out of the sheer need to change the narrative of Africa, the African continent. If he can do that in his other fields of work, he can do that in football. And football is a passion that he has. Everybody knows he loves his football. It doesn't need for him to be a CAF president in order for him to engage in football. He knows our problems. He sees our problems. So I want to take this opportunity of saying that I feel in my heart of hearts that finally we may just have got it right this time round in choosing the leadership that will take our African football and put it on the global map for the right reason. So having said that, I do want to take this opportunity of congratulating the South African people, the South African Football Association, Mr. Minister of Sports, and all of you. And we're looking forward to good, honest, genuine deliberations between all the other candidates and all the other football associations in choosing and endorsing Mr. Patrice Motsepe. So thank you so very much, and God bless you all. Thank you.
Aisha, thank you so much indeed. Nice, warm welcome in terms of endorsement, saying that it is time for change, and she firmly believes that they will go all the way to endorse Patrice Motsepe, so all the way through from Sierra Leone. Aisha, thank you so very much indeed for that. We'll continue with the rest of the questions as incoming. Mr. Chapa.
Thank you very much, Mr. Marawa. So we were on the question from a Cote d'Ivoire journalist, Mamadou Kai, addressed to Minister. Minister, handing over to you to talk about, engaging other African countries. Will you engage Morocco, especially in light of the elections taking place in that sector of Africa?
We have good working relations with almost all of the countries on the continent. Our difference with Morocco has never been personal. In fact, we continue to engage them even on this matter. The SAFA president has engaged his counterparts there. So, as I said, that nobody would not be engaged, including those countries with candidates themselves. So everybody will be engaged. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And then on to the next question from Veli Lenyanda. Yes, sure. President, you'd like to add on?
I will be traveling to Morocco on the 17th of November, and we had agreed that we'll meet to discuss and introduce, if necessary, not necessary, because he's an investor in Morocco, to just share with them why we had put forward the name of Dr. Patrice Motsepe to the Moroccans. And also to Egypt and the rest of North Africa, because they are major footballing partners, and we are going to work very closely with all of them.
Thank you very much. Veli Lenyanda, who's a freelance journalist, wanted to speak specifically to the issues around the announcement that we are backing the president, or rather the future president of CAF. Veli, where are you? I didn't capture who that question was directed to. Who were you directing the question to, and can you repeat the question?
How difficult was to arrive at that decision as the head of the FA carrying the endorsement?
No, I just explained to him that we should not deal with personalities, but deal with principles. And so we said, what is, as a matter of principle, in the interest of the African continent and of our country? When will South Africa ever have the possibility or even the remotest chance to have a president of CAF who automatically becomes the vice president of FIFA? And if there is that possibility, let us discuss it at SAFA. And the overwhelming majority of SAFA, National Executive, said, it's not about us, it's about the country. An English-speaking person was never the president of CAF since its formation. From the south of Africa has never produced a CAF president. It's a unique opportunity. Let's think of the matter of principles rather than of personalities. Ask the minister here, when Oliver Tambo came back, there was a question of, should Oliver Tambo be the president of Mandela? Nelson Mandela became the president, and Oliver Tambo supported it. That's the spirit of South Africa. What's in the interest of the country? So that is the spirit, not of me, of our National Executive of SAFA. And we must give credit to them.
Thank you, President. Thank you. We will take two more questions from the floor. The gentleman in the maroon T-shirt, if you'll introduce yourself, your organization, and you can get to your question. And then we'll have a second question, and thereafter we will close the proceedings.
Good day, Karabo Pasha, freelance journalist as well, to Dr. Danny Jordaan. I think I just wanted to ask, I understand, speaking under clarity, of course, that the candidateship closes on the 12th, so there's 3 days left. So I just wanted to understand as to why did you guys leave it this late, or was it because of the communications you guys were having with other nations? Because it's a bit of a surprise on my end. So just as to why did you leave it so late, to finally come out with a massive decision that it is and deserves to be at least a bit earlier from my understanding. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Karabo, thank you very much. And then we will, that is the final question for the day. Yes, sir.
It's time now. Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Kanyi Sochwagu, and I am from Sunday Times and Times Live. My question is to the SAFA president. Are you able to take us through the process of naming a candidate who isn't an association president, firstly, and secondly, now from what I also want to find out, is the CAF president allowed to be a club owner?
Thank you very much. And we'll take the final question from the gentleman in the striped or Scotch shirt at the back there, please. If we can get the roving mic back there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Charles Baloy from the Sowetan newspaper. To the President, how did Dr. Motsepe welcome the news when you told him that you are endorsing him to be the President? Was he excited? And he seems to be a busy man doing so many things. Will he be able to have the time to run football in the continent? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Over to you, President.
Thank you very much. Firstly, I didn't get the first question on that side.
Karabo, would you repeat your question, please?
President, mine was just to ask us to, I understand that, the candidateship.
Why we left it late?
Yes, to 3 days left.
No, the closing date is on the 12th of November. And so there's more time. You always win in extra time. So we had our plans in place to win in extra time. So our documents are there in Cairo today as we speak. We will be fully compliant. And we have to, as we wanted to show, this is not just a South African application. It's an application that has support on the continent. And therefore, if it takes a little longer to engage, we would rather do that than to put a proposal and then to engage, because we must be careful. We are very often as South Africans, we get accused of being arrogant. So we have to be humble and speak to our fellow African presidents. And that is what we've done. The question of, but Patrice Motsepe is not a National Association president. Well, Gianni Infantino was not a National Association president, nor was Blatter, nor was Hayato, nor was Havelange, and so on and so on. So it is not a requirement that you must be a National Association president in order to be a continental president or a world global president. We looked at what is required on African continent and what are the characteristics that the candidate bring and how can he take African football to the next level. Because we've fallen behind Asia. And we need to get back there. Everybody invests all over, not in African football. And that is a critical issue that we have to address. And then we have to ask, who is the person? And once we had all those answers, we submitted our nomination. What is Patrice's reaction? I think he's smiling. Of course, he's smiling at home because of COVID. He was somewhere and he said, look, I am for the next 10 days in quarantine. So we have two candidates of CAF in quarantine. Ahmad is in quarantine in Egypt, and Patrice Motsepe is in quarantine in South Africa at his house. But once those things are out, he will come and address you and speak to you.
You feel the second part of your question wasn't answered? Oh, he did. Yeah.
No, in the SAFA Constitution, it is specific. 36.7 in the SAFA Constitution says no club owner can be a president of SAFA. Obviously, conflict of interest. Now, CAF does not have that provision, but not from a constitutional point of view, from a governance point of view, he would have to step down. From a governance standpoint, because he cannot sit there and talk of all African federations and Club Champions League, and you have an interest. So that is an issue that I think he understands. That's why I said he understands governance. He's a lawyer by profession, and those are issues that we certainly will further engage in. We don't want any breach or compromise on governance and ethics in football.
Thank you very much, President. The last question was from Charles Baloyi from the Sowetan. If we can get to the response of that, and then I will hand over to Robert Marawa to hand over to our next special guest. Yes, sir. I think you've answered the question yeah, for sure. All right. Robert, over to you.
Only answered one part of it. I said he's a busy person. Will he be able to have the time to run African football?
You know, if you want to get the job done, get a busy person. If you find a person sitting there on the park, he's got a lot of time, he's sitting, he's relaxing, hey, never give him the job to finish. Find a busy person. So he is very busy. But it's about organization, planning, and it's about getting the correct people in your structures and in your delivery systems. And that is a key. And I think when you look at the success in multiple companies that they run, a foundation, a club, all of it successful. But it's busy. So he knows how to identify people and to build a team that can bring success. And that sometimes is more important, is to find whether the guy is very busy or the woman is busy or the woman is sitting on the park looking for a job to be a CAF president. Go and find a busy person. And we did find a busy person, a very busy person.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. Thanks, Mr. Chaba. We're going to get a final endorsement from Botswana. President Mthethwa should be available for us. We're just running a very busy switchboard here. So any second from now, we'll get our final endorsement from the Botswana Football Association. But also to thank each and every one of you, members of the media, for your patience today. And as the president of SAFA has said that, unfortunately, the future president of CAF couldn't be with us today due to quarantine reasons and purposes. All right, looks like President Mthethwa is not answering. So let's not waste much of your time. We will wrap unless there's any other further questions. Minister, CEO, Mr. President.
Thanks, President. My last word is to urge all South Africans to support the candidature. Obviously, whatever we can do, if we have a friend somewhere in one country or the other, but we have a candidate. Let's support the candidate, and let's do our work on the continent, engage everybody, and all the best to the future president. Thanks, Meluput.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure a lot of you have already taken your media releases from the press conference itself, and we do say congratulations and good luck to Dr. Patrice Motsepe in ascending to the position of President of CAF. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen.
You did a great job, as always.